Okay, I'm going to look at, in this tutorial here, some conditional formatting. All right, an example I have here. There's all sorts of rich data sets out on the web, and I found on the Seattle Seahawks website. This is defensive statistics from 2010. I got a long list here. Defensive statistics, I think, are always overlooked, but they're very important. In athletics, especially football here, and I got, I have a whole bunch of, I got 51 different records here, 51 different players that have some kind of defensive statistic. And I'll just kind of go over the example here. So we have tackles, and tackles are divided up into solo tackle, first one to make the hit, versus assists, which should be the second or third, and maybe even the third person to be in on a tackle. So our tackles are really a sum of the solo and assist column. Sacks are usually big plays. Fumbles are usually big plays. Interceptions usually big plays. These are kind of game changers. So as I go through this, I'm going to do some analysis here and see who really had great seasons last year. And I'm going to define just real loosely a great season as of someone having 30 tackles, at least 30 tackles, and then maybe a total of at least 3, either a sack, a fumble, interception, or 3 of either of those categories. And then I want to go and use conditional formatting and actually highlight those records in here to indicate that those folks had really exceptional seasons. Okay, and what I'm looking at is I'm looking at tackles, and then a sum. It's going to be a sum, right? Because we want them to have at least 3 combination of sacks, fumbles, and interceptions. All right. So let me. First, I don't need these 2 columns here because tackles are calculated based upon both solos and assists. So I'm going to use that. Remember how we had that grouping tool? Let me group, and then I'm going to collapse them. Okay, so I'll collapse. All right, so I'll get those out of there because that's not really important information for my study I'm looking at here. Okay, and again, we're looking at using conditional formatting to identify those players that have 30 or more tackles and then at least 3 big plays, okay, a fumble, interception, a sack, game changers. All right, so let me, let's go through here. I'm going to select this entire table here, and then we're going to make a rule for it, okay? So I'll go over to my conditional formatting, all right, and I have that right here, and I'm going to look at creating a new rule. Actually, let me go into a different interface here. I'm going to create a new rule, but let me see what I have here. I'm going to go in and manage my rules. I got a whole, I've been playing with this data set, so I'm going to delete a bunch of kind of old things I have in there. And I'm going to start from scratch, okay? So for this current selection, I'm going to create a new rule. And I'm going to use, I got 2 things going on here now. One is total number of tackles, and then 2 is going to be the big play statistic we talked about. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to create a formula here. And really, that's an and. Remember, we talked about logical operators. That's an and. We're combining, in this case, tackles with big plays. Okay, so you have to have both those categories. So I need to say equals and, pull this down where maybe you can see it a little better. Okay, and what are we looking for? And what? Well, B2 has got to be greater than or equal to 30. All right. And what's the other thing we want to check? Well, move this out of the way. We need to have the sum of what? E, F, and G2. All right, so you take that sum, and that's got to be greater than or equal to 3. All right? And I'll close off my brackets there. And if that's true, then let's give them a color. We'll make them kind of a bright green here. And we'll put their, so that's the fill, and then we'll put their font, superscript. What do we got selected here? We'll leave it at that, okay? So I'll click OK, and that'll be my rule. Now, where folks are going to get hung up on this, because I want to do this apply this to the entire table, is we're back to this idea of absolute versus relative formatting. Okay, so I want to, and I can use, remember I got absolute, I got relative, I also use mixed. I could probably get away with just relative. Let's try that. Let's see what happens. So I'll click OK. And I'm going to apply that to my entire data set. Okay, and that kind of works, doesn't it? But we want this to go all the way across to G51. All right, so let's change this some more. Why am I not getting this whole area across here? Let me go back into my rule. So I'll edit my rule. And let's go ahead and let's change this now to, I'm going to hit F4, a mixed reference. So I want my column B to always be B, and then I'll have my row increment. Okay, so absolute column, relative row. And I will apply this across. Okay, and I think we've completed what we set out to do here now. So everybody in green are those athletes with 30 plus tackles and then at least 3 big plays. And I think we got everybody that fits into that. Okay. So there's conditional formatting, and it's a complex example because we have to create a rule, and in that rule we utilize a function, the AND function, and we also utilize the SUM function. Okay. Now, one last thing I want to do. I'd like to get these. I'd like to see my top performers at the top of this list now. And so I'm going to do a sort to make that happen. Okay, so we're going to do a sort here, and I'm going to do sort. And I'm going to sort by player. And I'm going to use cell color. And so I sort on, instead of values, I'm going to sort on cell color. And on top, I want the greens. Okay, so here's my top. Looks like I got 11 big play players. And let me continue one more sort, and let's add a second level here, and let's sort based upon their tackles. Okay, so most tackles and then big plays. Whoops, let's do that again. We want the big plays on top, so we need to do this in largest to smallest. Okay, so there's my top 9 players that had both qualities of big plays and then 30 or more tackles.